Inequalities. This is today's essay topic. Inequalities or disparities. This is one of the important topics, as it is greatest adverse consequences of our 3 decades of economic reforms. Since independence, India has been facing inequalities or disparities or differences in developmental process across the region, across the sector, across the sections of the people. Okay. This is one of the the most important and most dangerous adverse effect of our 3 decades of economic reforms. It has been exposed by the recent Oxfam report. Recently, in 2022, okay, in 2022 or in 2023, just before the budget, 3 days before our 2023-24 budget session or budget proposal, the World Economic Forum, Oxfam, a lab, inequality lab of the globe, World Economic Forum organization, has released inequality reports of the globe. It is particularly concentrated on India also, because India is the largest, fastest growing economy on the earth. So it concentrates the inequality, the state of inequalities in India. It exposed the starkest problem of these inequalities in India. Okay, this report, the World Economic Forum or else Oxfam report, Oxfam report 223 or 220. This top 1% of Indians having around 40% of incomes or wealth. Okay, bottom 50% of population having only around 3% of the incomes or the wealth of the country. So imagine this one, inequalities. It is only enough. Okay, we talked a lot about inequalities, the state of inequalities in India. But look at this one, top 1% of Indians having 40% of wealth. Okay, whereas bottom 50% of the population, which means around 70 crore of the population wealth, is only 3% of the country. Whereas top 1% of the population of the country, top 1% is mean 1.4 crore population of India's wealth is 40% of India. This is what the inequality, the state of inequalities in India. It has been widening further and further, rapidly. So India is growing. India is the fastest growing economy on the earth surface, like emerging economy. But what about this widening disparities, widening inequalities across the spectrum of these social, economic and other spheres? So this is exposure that the danger, the threat of inequalities to India. So that's why, since for the last 5 years, from the last 11th 5-year plan onwards, India has been stressing upon the inclusive growth rate. Even the main motto of the 11th 5-year plan and 12th 5-year plan were this inclusive growth rate. Still India has been stressing, but however these inequalities have been widening. This is the problem. This is the biggest problem India is facing now. This is the biggest problem. Inequalities or disparities are the problem India is facing. This is the biggest out of all problems. This is more dangerous than the terrorism. This is more dangerous than the left-wing extremism. This is more dangerous than any other problem that India has been facing. This is what inequalities or disparities. Okay. Before going to discuss about the inequalities, what kind of inequalities is there, what kind of disparities are there. Okay, this is a little bit confusion. Okay, let's clear this one. This, how many types of the inequalities? Types of inequalities or disparities. Number one, regional disparities or inequalities. Regional disparities or regional inequalities. These are two types: inter-regional, intra-regional. Inter-regional, second type is intra-regional. Intra-regional disparities. Next, rural-urban disparities. Rural-urban inequalities or disparities. Next, communal inequalities or disparities. Communal. Next, caste based. Next, gender inequalities or disparities. Next, what is the next? Technology. Digital. Next, sixth, sectoral. Inequalities or disparities. These are the various kinds of disparities or inequalities in India. See, look at the regional disparities. Okay, this regional which include, there are the subcategories too. Inter-regional, between the or among the regions, and intra-regional, within a region there are various disparities. For example, within the regional disparities, for example, Maharashtra. In between Maharashtra and within the Maharashtra and the states, regional means mostly states. This is Maharashtra and the MP. In between there is a lot of disparities in nearby state. And within the inter-regional, within the Maharashtra, Marathwada and Vidarbha region. And within Gujarat, Saurashtra and Kathiawad. Like this. Within the state, these are the problems. Within this one, states. Understand this one. Inter-regional, intra-regional. For example, the large states like Tamil Nadu. Within the Tamil Nadu is one of the biggest progressive state. Out of the 5 progressive states in India, okay, Tamil Nadu is also. It is heading towards $1 trillion economy also. Highly progressive state. However, within the Tamil Nadu, as far as the inter-regional disparities are concerned, okay, within the northern Tamil Nadu and the Coimbatore, Kattabommai and Kanyakumari districts, underdevelopment is there. So this is what the situation. Within the Karnataka, it is another progressive state, IT state in India. See, look at the northern Belgaum, that area. That is the poorest. Okay, in the southern Mysuru plateau, that is the richest. Disparities. within the Goa, even within the Telangana. See, look at Hyderabad urbanized, whereas the in and around surrounding Hyderabad poorest. Even after bifurcation also, the present AP. Look at the present AP. This Andhra coastal region richest. Even northern coastal region poorest. In the Rayalaseema, drought prone, poorest. Even within this small state like Rajasthan, this eastern part of this Aravalli is richest. Western part of Aravalli, this is the problem. Even across the country, compared to North India, South India is the richest, fastest growing. Whereas the northern mountainous state further, northeast, see, this is what is regional, state-wise, and within the state, intra-regional. This is a very dangerous problem. Next one, rural-urban disparities. Around 70% of the population is living in the rural areas, remaining in urban. Urban areas are fastest growing. They are attracting everything from the rural countryside. They are growing at the cost of rural areas. So rural-urban disparities are very dangerous in India. It has always been there. Next, communal inequalities. Chachar committee has been appointed decades back. It is exposed to the communal inequalities. It's not a theoretical now. It is empirical in nature now. So among the Hindus among the various communities like Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Parsis, etc. Parsis, Christians are in advanced stage in terms of education, health, etc. Whereas Hindus, middle, Muslims, less growth in terms of all social indicators. So even communal inequalities, communal disparities are there in India. Next, caste disparities. You know, the casteism is a unique to India, unique to Indian social condition, where caste-wise accessibility to resources is there. There is a caste inequalities is also one of the unique feature of Indian economy. Next, gender between women and male disparities. It is common in India. Next, digital. Now it is a new kind of disparity. As far as disparities, for example, mobile phone access to mobile phones, access to internet and other communications. This divide leads to further various consequences in India now. Because digital education is more important than any other thing. Even government programs have been implemented through by means of the digital now. For example, JAM, Jan Dhan Yojana, etc. That's what digital in nature. If you are poor digitally, you can't accessible to anything. So you will be excluded from the society. Next, sectoral disparities. It is more important. Sectoral means there are various 3 sectors in the country. Services, industry, secondary sector and agriculture. Among these sectors, the disparities have been increasing further. At the lowest ladder, the agriculture sector is there, on which around 50% of the population, around 45% of working force are depending. So it is not moving on par with other sectors. They are getting fruits from the present ongoing economic reforms. So these are the various disparities. This is causing various consequences in India. I told you at the outset, the inequalities or disparities, various kinds of these disparities, totally inequality, simple. This is the biggest problem India is facing compared to any other problem in India. India is growing, fastest growing. Growth is unprecedented level, historically highest. Is the fastest growing economy, vibrant economy now. But on the other hand, these inequalities are widening. This is the biggest threat China has been facing. As far as the world scenario is concerned, every country is facing the inequalities, including US. US is also not excluded. Even Japan is also not excluded. Germany is not excluded from these inequalities. But however, in India, these inequalities are already reached to peakest level. But these are the further widening. That is the problem. They can, these inequalities is a potential, has the potential to threaten the existence of the India. That's what the danger of the inequalities. Simply the Oxfam report has exposed it. And these inequalities have been increasing. The further widening between among these various inequalities have been increased since these economic reforms initiated in India. That is the most problem. Most important, dangerous problem. And the recent COVID has further exacerbated this problem. The recent COVID-19. Okay? Let's discuss about the inequalities, various inequalities in India. What kind of inequalities are there? This is what you have to observe. These are the various kinds of inequalities. What do you mean by inequality? What do you mean by inequality? So before going to discuss about this one, the structure of essay is important. This is not an extensive essay, but however it is highly intensive in nature. Intensive analysis is important for this essay. It's not an extensive. Introduction, conclusion. Okay? Within this one, we have to write about introduction, next definitions. After that, we have to enter into this main body of the essay, where after definition, the geographical dimensions of this problem. Geographical. Next, historical dimension of this problem. After that, we will go for not in terms of these dimensions. We will go for this one. After the definition, geographical dimension, historical dimensions. Next one, we should discuss about the consequences. Of these inequalities or disparities. Within the consequences, we should discuss in all dimensions. We have to discuss dimension wise. What is geographical dimension of consequences? Historical dimensions of the consequences. Okay, political consequences out of these inequalities. Next, social consequences out of it. Next, cultural consequences, political consequences, various consequences, dimension wise, so that we can generate more point, more information. After the consequences, what would be the next step? Rational approach, rational step, next, or logical. After consequences, causes. Next, steps are being taken. Steps are being taken to plug these inequalities. Next, steps to be taken. To be taken. To be taken. To make it effective. These efforts. Next, finally, conclusion. Immediately after the definition, okay, and we can subsume these things, geographical and historical, we can subsume within this one. No need specialized approach for these things. But you should have specialized, you should concentrate on these things. But we can subsume these under these causes, or else even in consequences also. After the definition, we should talk about the types of disparities. These are the types. And present state of inequalities in India. This is what the broad structure of an essay. At macro level, this is the broad structure. Introduction. Next, out of this introduction, this introductory part, next immediately after this one, definition. This definition part is act as the transition between this main body and introductory body. Next, immediately the types of inequalities. Next, state of present inequalities in India. State of inequalities in present position of inequalities in India. Immediately after that one, we will discuss about the consequences. Why consequences here? Why should discuss the consequences here? First we should discuss about the severity of that problem. Then it would be effective. Next, causes for this such inequalities. Next, immediately the government of India is not sleeping now. It has been taking these steps since independence. It has increased these steps to flag these inequalities immediately after the economic reforms. In recent past, it made it fast. It make it expeditious process is there related to flood. However, they have been increasing. That's why we should propose some steps, revolutionary steps. Steps to be taken is nothing but revolutionary in nature. Okay? Next, finally, conclusion. This is what the broad structure of an essay. It is very important inequalities. Next, we are entering into economy and social problems. This is the inequalities. This is an issue of both economy as well as social issues in India. It is interrelated. This is an admixture of social issues and economic issues. We can't classify it as purely as a social. We can't classify it as purely as an economic. It is an in between these two. This is consequences are like this. Even causes also mostly in social and economic factors. This is a combined topic of social and economy. We are entering into economy slowly. Tomorrow we will discuss about the economic reforms issue. Others. So we have to discuss before inequalities is nothing but the okay, you can write down like this. Inequalities, or else other topic is necessity of inclusive growth. Both are same topics. Necessity of inclusive growth. Both are same. Necessity of inclusiveness. Inclusive growth. Both are same. No difference. Okay. But this inclusiveness, we are looking this inclusive in view of inequalities. Both are same. No difference. This is the most important and paramount significance in India right now. Look at this introduction. What do you mean by introduction? What kind of introduction is important for this one? Recently there are two reports related to inequality, the state of inequalities in India. Number one, Oxfam report, released by World Economic Forum, Oxfam report. Number one. Number two, Economic Advisory Council to PM, EAC PM 2022-23. This is released India's report. This is India's produced report. There are two reports. Both expose the widening inequalities, the state of inequalities in India. The most important one is Oxfam report. Okay? I told you the recent Oxfam report is exposed the darkest side of the inequalities in India. Number 1, top 1% of the population. 40% of India's income or wealth, of course. Next, bottom 50% of the population. Bottom 50% of the population having only 3%. 3%. It is around in 2015. It is around 6%. It is become half now. So which means that the gaps, inequalities have been widening fast. This is the biggest threat India is facing. So it exposed, this Oxfam report exposed this inequality, the state of inequalities in India. It is the biggest threat India is facing out of any troubles, include terrorism. Terrorism